And joining us today on our Book Talk segment, great welcome, a woman you all see every night on Headline News with her program, 7 o'clock every night. And she has written a book about a case that I think just about everybody, if they didn't watch it, they heard about it. It's called Exposed, The Secret Life of Jodi Arias. We're joined by a journalist, Jane Velez-Mitchell, today. And Jane, good to talk to you. How are you?
Good to talk to you as well.
First of all, I got to say, I grew up in New York and had a chance to watch you up on Channel 2 up there, so it's good to have a chance to chat with you for a couple minutes. Let's go back a ways.
Time ago, but yeah, sure. I'm back. Right back in New York, my hometown.
Is that where you do most of the HLN shows from New York?
Yes.
When you're
right
on the road? Okay, I wasn't sure if they had you move around a lot because you cover different things, but that was quite a news operation at Channel 2. I remember going back to the old Jim Jensen days, Rollin Smith and all those folks.
Yeah. Good group of people, really good.
Well, let's get into this book here. I know you've been doing a lot of interviews about it, and the information, I had a chance to read through it. A lot of it, obviously, we didn't get to hear about it in the trial, and you really kind of delved into some of the behind-the-scenes stories. That must have been kind of fun for you.
Yeah, because basically this defendant, Jodi Arias, got on the stand and basically tried to blame the victim and accused him of being a pedophile and accused him of being a sexual deviant. And what I found out researching Exposed is that the exact opposite is true. He was not a pedophile. He was not a sexual deviant. She was the one who brought the kinky sex games to the party. She was the one who was, according to the victim, told his best friend she was a nymphomaniac, and she was the one who taught him about everything. He didn't even know that KY jelly existed, sexual lubricant, until he met her, and that's documented on the sex tape. So when she took the stand and portrayed herself as a meek, submissive woman who was reluctantly going along with sex to please a man with a bad temper, the exact opposite is true. She was the absolute initiator and active, willing, eager participant in these kinky sex games.
Yeah, when you cover a trial like this, Jane, I mean, obviously you only see on TV what the lawyers want us to see as far as the trial goes, but do you have an opportunity to talk to a lot of folks behind the scenes? How do you get a lot of this information?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, what I did was I talked to a lot of the victims' friends, and they were telling me completely different stories from what the defendant was telling on the witness stand. I mean, this was a very challenging project because there was only one person left alive after the murder to tell what happened behind closed doors. And so her story is a lie. She's a pathological liar, and that's documented because she lied and said she wasn't there. Then when they found the photo showing that she was there and naked and having sex with him and photographing him in the shower right before she stabbed him, and that there were even inadvertent photos of the murder itself because the camera dropped and there's her leg dragging his dead body along the floor. Then she says, well, two masked ninjas came in and killed him, and I got away. Now, that story is completely ridiculous. And the Detective Flores says that when he's interrogating her. He says, you don't have to do better than that. But she hung on to that story for 2 years. And then during a motion, we learned that, she is going to plead self-defense. In other words, admit, because all the evidence shows clearly that she killed him. She can't get out of it. Well, now she's going to admit self-defense, admit she killed him, but say it's self-defense. And in order to justify self-defense, she had to turn him into a pedophile and a pervert and an angry guy and a degrader and all these things that really weren't true. The only thing that was true is that they had a kinky sex relationship.
Yeah, and it's well documented, and I guess when you do a research on this type of book, you can't be squeamish or anything like that.
You can't be prudish. That's
that
for
too,
sure.
Right.
I mean, Travis's best friend says Travis told him that she was capable of 8, 9, or up to 13 orgasms in a row. Now, that's not just, I'm not just saying that for shock value. Mm-hmm. That's significant because she suffered from borderline personality disorder. And borderlines, if left untreated, and I don't want to malign borderlines, if you get help for it, you can function in life, but they get obsessed with a person because they don't know who they are. They have no boundaries. That's why they're called borderlines. They don't know where they end and the other person begins. So they entrench themselves into somebody else's life, especially somebody who has a really clear identity like Travis. He had a career. He had a religion. He had good friends. He had a community. That's exactly what they want. So she got in, entrenched herself in his life, converted to Mormonism very quickly, And not because, I don't believe, because she was interested really in Mormonism. She just wanted to marry him and figured if I become a Mormon, it's easier to marry him.
Right.
And then eventually he got suffocated, and she was acting crazier and crazier, and then he rejects her. And that's when she goes completely insane. And that's when the stalking really starts. And she moves toward right near his house. I mean, they were having a long-distance relationship while they went out. She lived in the Palm Springs area. He lived in Mesa, Arizona. And then after they break up, she moves into a neighborhood 5 minutes drive from him. And then she starts going to his house, visiting, offering to clean his house. And yes, he does have sex with her while he is dating other women, or another woman at least. But the case I make in the book is that, she's offering him a sexual fire sale, and he's trying to get married, but nobody's saying yes. So it's really like somebody who is starving being offered a feast, right?
Yeah.
So that's what he took. And was he a saint? No, but he wasn't the monster she portrayed him to be, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, in way over his head, too, obviously. I mean, just not recognizing at the beginning. Usually you can sort of tell right away if somebody's a little off, but she was way off.
Right. Well, one of his friends explained that he was so sexually inexperienced that he couldn't really recognize her MO, which is a person who uses sex as a tool.
Yeah.
And this friend, who was more experienced, said he immediately recognized it. But that Travis was really blind to it. He couldn't see what became apparent to his friends pretty quickly.
Even just the picture on your book itself showing, the way that they transformed her looks for the courtroom really kind of epitomizes her whole, multiple personalities. The way she kind of looks almost like a librarian in the lower picture with the glasses and the darker hair, and then the top picture was pretty much what she looked like all the time, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why we put the two pictures on the cover, because when she got before the jury, oh my gosh, she was this meek, submissive woman wearing glasses with this dark, mousy hair and wearing little collars, just the same Casey Anthony thing. Casey Anthony, they went to the same store, I think. They both ordered from whatever. Those stores that send out uniforms for
sure.
Catholic school girls.
Yeah.
That's the store they ordered their shirts from. And you remember Casey, after she was acquitted, she came out the day after, and her hair was flowing, and she looked like she was going to a rock concert, and that whole act was over. It's the same thing here, and the thing is that it works. That's why defense teams do this, because it's effective. And so this book really is exposing all of these lies and all of these charades, and it's really a search for the truth.
When you cover, again, in the courtroom, and you see, what the lawyers do, and obviously their job is to defend their client, but does it make you kind of, even more cynical than maybe we always kind of are already, Jane? How you can almost make up lies about somebody who's dead, and now she didn't get away with it, obviously, but she could have. Casey Anthony down here, we saw that in Florida, basically worked for her, getting away with it.
Well, it worked a little bit for Jodi Arias, because the jury hung on life or death.
Right.
And so the jury foreman said that he felt that she was abused, verbally abused, at least. He said that there was abuse. And so he bought some of it.
Yeah.
I bought none of it. I believe that it was, look, consensual kinky sex is very common. Look at 50 Shades of Grey. It's a runaway bestseller. Erotic humiliation is an industry. Both sides get pleasure out of it, and there's a lot of argument that the one who's being so-called degraded gets more pleasure than the other for a variety of psychological reasons. If you're restrained or whatever, you feel like freedom to experience pleasure the way you wouldn't. And so the dichotomy is, a lot of people say that in these S&M relationships, the bottom is the one who actually has more control. And so, in other words, it's a consensual thing. Both people get something out of it. Whether you like it or not, or you think it's dirty or not, the point is that it's not abuse. And it's certainly not domestic violence. And that's why people got so mad at her, is that she has really made it harder for now real victims of domestic violence, women who are battered by their husbands and beaten and hit with things and tied up with, abused with electric cords and everything. Those women who have real cases okay? It's going to be harder for them to make their case now because this girl took some sex games that they consensually played and tried to make it sound like domestic violence.
Yeah, it almost sets a precedent now that makes it even harder for women that go through that, or men that go through that. I mean, both sexes can, but
right. Yeah, exactly. It's not a gender thing, but I think that women were especially angry at her because men, I still believe, are somehow swayed by her attractiveness.
I mean, if you didn't know she was a murderer, you look at her, not a bad-looking woman, but but you read the story, and then it's just all the nuttiness. You can almost see it in her eyes now that you know the backstory in the picture. I mean, and you were in the courtroom when she was giving her testimony on the stand. That was kind of chilling in there, wasn't it? You're going to describe it very well in the book.
Well, I was there in court. I wasn't always there when she was on the stand, but I was inside court many, many days when she was in the courtroom, and I got to observe her. And the thing is, she's very statuesque. She's very composed. She's very confident. That's the other thing. She argues I have low self-esteem. She went toe-to-toe with one of the toughest prosecutors in the country, Prosecutor Juan Martinez. I mean, she talked back to him. She was fresh. She was cheeky. She was confrontational. That's not a meek, submissive woman who has no self-esteem.
Do you think she realizes now in some way what she's been through, or is this all kind of in her head, fame for her? I mean, does she really know what her situation is now?
I think there is moments of clarity where she starts seeing, the mess and how horrible it is, and how she's going to, listen, she could very well be put to death, but the best case scenario is she's going to spend many, many years in prison. I mean, there's always a chance if the next jury hangs, it goes back to the judge, and the judge decides either natural life or life with the possibility of parole after 25 years. She served 5, so then she'd be out in 20. She's now, about 32, so 42, 52. I think that she's never going to see the light of day again. I can't imagine this judge giving her parole, release, it's called, because of if you see the crime scene photos, you see how she sawed him in half. Really, it was a decapitation practically. Yeah. She's alienated. She's not grounded in reality. So there's a disassociation. And so she's conducted her life as if it's a movie. The irony is if she went to Hollywood and became a screenwriter or an actress, she probably would have done quite well.
Yeah.
But she didn't. She chose to actually carry out some of the unimaginable things that she cooked up in her mind.
Well, it's a great story. I mean, obviously there's tragedy involved, but like you said, it's going to be a movie, I'm sure, very soon. And the timetable for her sentencing is when, Jane? How soon?
Well, they were supposed to send it this week, and they pushed it back. They're having another hearing on September 16th to determine when she will go to retrial, unless they come up with some 11th hour deal.
Well, you did a great job covering it on HLN. I always wonder, though, when you have a case like this, obviously it's people love, not the, I guess, what the circumstances are, but they enjoy watching it and finding out the story. Does it ever get old, though, to find new angles on it?
It's a really fascinating case study in human dysfunction. And I wrote the book Exposed because I think that people can read it and get insight into their own lives. And also recognize red flags when somebody's got a problem. I mean, a lot of people lie. A lot of people out there lie. And I'm not talking about, I'm running 5 minutes late, I'm in the elevator when I'm not. I'm talking about more extensive lying, embellishment, and lying, and exaggerating. And it's really, the common theme I see through all these cases is lying. Whether it's Casey Anthony, whether it's Jodi Arias, and various other cases I've covered, that lying is the theme. So I think that's a really good lesson. And also, what are the red flags of somebody who's mentally ill? When somebody is doing something like looking into your emails or grabbing your cell phone and trying to see who you're calling, or, being super jealous or trying to make you jealous. These are red flags. And if you get a convergence of red flags, run for the hills.
Yeah. Well, like you said, it's not only a crime story, but like you said, a study in human psychology and behavior. Again, Exposed, The Secret Life of Jodi Arias is the name of the book. Doing very well, and I've been talking to Jane Velez-Mitchell today of Headline News. Jane, real pleasure. I know you're a busy woman with all the shows you do and the interviews, but appreciate you taking a few minutes, and hopefully we can talk again sometime.
All right. Have a good one. Thanks. Good talking to you.